Hi everyone. In this video, we'll try to cover the other sub languages of SQL, right? So I hope you remember this PPT. We have discussed at the initial of the course that what are the sub languages available in SQL, right? So we have DDL, DML, DQL, TCL and TCL, right? DDL is data definition language. I'm just giving you a quick recap. So in the data definition language, you create your table, alter the table, you can truncate the table, you can drop the table. So step by step, I'm gonna talk about these commands as well, because in your interviews, definitely, if you are preparing for an interview, they will ask you questions related to these sub commands or sub languages of SQL also. And then later on, I'll talk about insert, update, delete, and the rest of the part I will cover, right? So right now, let me talk about create, right? It's not only about that only the conventional way that you can use for creating the table. There are many other ways to create the table also. So let me jump to those other ways as well, right? So what is the conventional way of creating the table? You know it, right? That how you can create the table. Let me just go to my SQL developer and let me paste the code over here, create table and the table name. And then you have to place a bracket. Many a time it happens that in your interviewer asks you to create a table and at that point of time you don't remember the code. So just simply remember it, because if somebody is asking you to create a table, you should be knowing how to create a table by the conventional method, right? This is the conventional method. Create table and the table name, give the bracket, give the column name and the respective data type, of course, and the respective constraint, right? So this is how you can create a conventional way of creating a table. So, and at last, if you want to place a primary key column, then you can say constraint name, primary key, the keyword itself, and the product ID, the column you have to specify which you want to create as a primary key inside the bracket. Here you're opening the bracket, here you have to close the bracket as well. Right, let me just select the table. I think I have the table with this name, so I can say product_1. Remember that with the same name, you cannot create another table. If that table is exist with the same name, right, you have to have the different name for that table. So select this code and press Ctrl Enter. It says table product_1 is created. That's how you create a table. And I hope you remember that how you can create a foreign key as well, right? This is how you can create a primary key. And I hope you remember that how you create a foreign key. So let me just give you a quick recap that how you can create a foreign key also. Now you can see this code, right? I have created an EMP table and here I have created a foreign key constraint. So here the idea is just to give you a syntax. So you have to remember the syntax that you know how you can create a foreign key. This is the employee table and I have created a foreign key and I'm using a keyword called constraint. Give any of the name to that constraint. And then I have used a keyword called foreign key. I'm specifying the column. The column I am gonna make a foreign key. Here department number is a foreign key. I'm going to create this column as a foreign key. And I have to use a keyword called references. Remember these keywords. These are really important and this can land you a very good job when you are being asked in the interview, right? So this is what the table there I am referring, and this is the column that I am being referred, or this is the column I am referring, right? Both the column name are same. This is your foreign key over here in this table, and this is the key, a primary key in the DEPT table. So this is the conventional way of creating the table. Now what are the other ways that you can create table? Let me show you that also. So in this way also, you can see on your screen, we'll run the code also. We'll always do practical, don't worry. I'll just not cover only the theoretical part. We'll mostly cover the coding part. How to create the table with the structure and the data from the another table, right? From the another table. So this is the code that you can just simply take a copy of a table. So we can say that create table, this, I am giving the table name as employee_copy_1 as select star from EMP, select star from EMP, right? Select this code and it says that table employee_copy_1 is created. So what exactly we are doing over here? We are just trying to copy this table with this name. So this is known as taking a backup of a table, and it is always a good idea that you take a backup of a table when you are working in the production support and when you are trying to do something with the production live table that may be really dangerous, that you delete some data or you update that table or you truncate that table, right? So before performing any of the operation on the production ka table, just take a copy, and this is how you can take a copy of a table, or this is how you can take a backup of the table. Now let me do a query on this particular table. And you can see that we have all the 14 or 15 number of records, whatever we had in the employee table, right? We have all the records in this table. Now if I want to do any changes in this table, in the source table, I can do that. Now in this scenario, this will become my source table, because from this source I'm creating a copy, and this is my target table. This is one way of creating a table, or you can say this is one way of taking a backup of the table, right? Now what is the other way? How to create a table with specific columns from another table along with their data, right? Here also we are taking a structure of the table along with the data. Here also I will take, or I will create a table, but this time I will not create the table with entire columns, with all the columns. I am taking some specific column. Okay, so I can say create table, this table name as select EMP number, comma EMP name, comma job, comma salary from EMP table, right? So let me copy the code and let me run the code. It says table employee underscore copy underscore 2 is created, right? This is created. So you can simply take a look at the table, select star from this particular table. Now instead of having all the column, we have created the table with EMP number, ename, job, and the respective salary, and we have all the 15 number of records in this table, right? So that is how you can create a table with some selective columns as well. Even though here also we are taking a backup, but backup of only some few columns, right? What are the other ways to create a table? We have some other ways also to create a table. Now you can see the question on your screen, that how to create a table by copying selective column based on some condition, you can see that, right? So that only some specific values will be inserted in the table, right? Only some column, or if I wanted to have all the column, I can have all the column, but based on the condition, I want some limited records, right? So let me copy this and let me just simply try to give you a demonstration. Now I'm not going to give you a demonstration for this particular table because I do not have I think companies table, so rather I'll use the employee table to take a backup. So what I can say is create table suppliers as, create table suppliers as, and in the bracket I can say select star from EMP, because I have the EMP table, and I can add a where clause to it, where salary, or where salary is greater than 3000, right? So I only want to insert the data, or I only want to take the backup of those people whose salary is greater than 3000, right? Let me close the bracket. Do not forget to use this keyword called as, and give a semicolon. Select this code and press Ctrl Enter. It says table suppliers created in the message, you can see that. Now let me take a select query, or let me write a select query on the target table. This is my target table and this is my source table. Source table is the table from which you are creating the data or creating the table, and this is the target table, the final table that you are going to create, right? And you can see that we only have 2 people in the target table whose salary is greater than 3000, right? So you can see that King has 5000 and Pavan we have 10,000, right? So this is how you can create a backup of a table, right, where you have such a selective column, or where you want to have such selective data, or where you want to insert certain selective data, right, based on your condition. It's not only about that salary should be greater than 3000. I can have some other conditions also, right? I can say create table, and I can say my data, use a keyword called as, give a bracket, and say select star from emp where ename like, give a inverted quote, like operator, right, and then whose name starts with a, right, and after that give a percentage symbol. Percentage means it can be anything. After a it can be anything, right? So let me try to run this. It says missing right parenthesis, so let me just close the bracket and then give a semicolon over here. Now try to run it. It says table my data created. Now take the name of this table and try to run this. Now we have only 2 people whose name starts with A. So it's a kind of filter, not a kind of filter, it is a filter. It is a filter, right, which I have applied, and then I have inserted this data into this particular table, or I have created a new table with the help of this table, right? Now what is the next question? This is going to be the last question for this particular video. How to create an Oracle table from another table without copying any value from the old table. Without copying any value from the old table. So what I want to see, or what I want to do is, I just want to create a table. I want to create a table, right? But I just want to create the table. I do not want to select any data from the source table. I just want to copy the structure of the table. Just copy the structure of a table, right? Instead of company, let me say EMP, and then just try to read out the code. Code says that create table suppliers as select star from EMP where 1 is equals to 2, where 1 is equals to 2, where 1 is equals to 2, right? Select the code and run it. It says name already exists, so we have a table with the name of suppliers. You can say _1. Simply select the code and run it. We have a table created called suppliers _1, right? Suppliers _1. Let me copy this and we can say that select star from suppliers _1 and run this. So we have the table structure. You can see the column name, but we do not have any data because we have said that where 1 is equals to 2. What is the meaning of 1 is equals to 2? The meaning of 1 is equals to 2 is that this condition will not get satisfied anytime. That's the reason you are not getting any data, but you are able to copy the structure of the table. So this is how the syntax you can use to create a structure of a table. Exactly the copy of the structure of the table. Alright, I hope you understood the concept. You understood the different ways of creating a table, the different ways of taking the backup of the table or taking them selective data from the table, from the source table. Thank you so much for watching. Till then, happy learning. In the next video, I am gonna give you the different ways of inserting the data in the table, right? Different ways of inserting the data in the table. Thank you so much.